All right. Good morning. Thanks for coming out. Really feel really good coming off the practice field today. Lots of focus. Guys are dialed in. Really good tempo in practice. Got good work in pads. Got some really good work in our run game, run defense, and some good thud work. And guys were playing fast. The game plan's in. We're working and got our first and second down game plan in for these guys on both sides of the ball, special teams, getting the game plan in, working the guys, and good meetings, good practice. So we're on track this week.
Coach, you've talked about turning the page from Friday. Is that harder to do in a lopsided loss like that? You've had a couple nail biters and heartbreakers at the end. Are those easier to shake off than maybe a bad night where you can say, let's just forget about that one?
No, I mean, they're not easy to shake off, but you have to turn the page nonetheless. So, that's what we do. Anytime you don't have success, man, if it doesn't bother you, man, something's wrong, I think. And so, there's a time to think about it and reflect, and then obviously, from a coaching standpoint, you have to analyze it, break it down, grade the film, plus minus on every play, give a guy a percentage grade, just the overall themes of the game, offense, defense, special teams, whether it's turnover margin, how we do against the run, how do we run it versus the pass, all the, special situations, third down, you break it down. And then when the players come in on Monday, a lot of players they've already seen the game, but when they come in on Monday, then you review the game with them and make the corrections. You have a correction period, and then you move on to the next opponent. And so it's really systematic. So kind of naturally, you have to turn the page because you have another game to play.
You addressed this after the game some, I'd imagine, but the penalties, home and away, becomes a constant theme that you don't want, obviously, if that makes sense, being self-inflicted and things that you can fix. Do you change what you do and how you approach that when it isn't getting through? Coaches had a hill in high school you could run on that was a pretty good motivator, those kind of things. We had one of those that's like,
you said a hill?
Yeah, we had a hill. You don't jump off sides. That kind of thing where that was the message then. Or does that not click in? I mean, do you have to change anything with that?
If I could take him over to the mountain, I would. Yeah. No, you do. You don't make wholesale changes, because, we emphasize discipline and being accountable and attention to detail, every day. But you do have to make some changes. And you want to make changes that you think are going to make a difference, are going to be effective. And, it depends on, the player or the nature of the penalty or whatever it is. And then you're just finding different ways to get them better and eliminate them. Sometimes, it's communication. You got to have dialogue with guys. You have to show guys, you have to show them what they did. Sometimes that's embarrassing to guys. They feel like they let themselves down. They feel like they let their teammates down. Sometimes, like you may, in the beginning, maybe you draw it in black, and then it's not getting through, so you draw it in red. Then you got to draw it in bright red, and then you keep going. It's progressive, and it just keeps going. So, but you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result if that's what you're getting at. So I agree with you on that.
Mel, that offense that they run, the quarterback doesn't stand back in the pocket a lot. So how do you attack that? They're throwing it 50, 60 times a game, but he doesn't stand back there and doesn't give up a lot of sacks as a result.
You mean the air raid?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just throwing the ball all over the lot. They run it some, and he's back there and he's slinging it. And they got receivers all over the place. They're wide open. 4 wide receiver sets. Empty. Catch, set, and throw. and then got some drop back. They move the pocket some, and and it's the pure air raid. It's not like a version of the air raid. It's the real air raid. So, they really have it down to a science, and they have a quarterback that can run it. He can run the offense. He knows how it works, and so it puts a lot of pressure on your defense, and so it's a different type of offense, certainly. And I give Coach Leach credit. He believes in what he's doing, and he always finds a way, no matter where he is or who he's got, he finds a way to move the ball and score points.
When we talked to Tyson, he said that he's never faced an air raid offense before. I'm not sure what kind of experience you have with it, but what's your experience with facing an air raid offense, and how difficult is that challenge when, let's say, your defensive coordinator hasn't really gone up against it?
Yeah, well, I faced air raid and versions of air raid. I remember coaching against. I think I coached against Coach Leach maybe in 2002. I think he was at maybe Texas Tech. So I'm familiar with it, and so that helps a lot.
You're going to have a lot of this stems back to before you got here, but they've got a local kid, Borgie, the tailback there is from down here. How important is you build this thing that it's a theme we've come back to time and again, that those guys are doing this for you guys, are staying home, that the Max Borgies of the world give you guys a longer look and are more attracted to being here and doing that for you guys? Because I'm not sure the last staff made a big run at him that way.
Well, he's a good player. He could play anywhere in the country. He's a dynamic guy. They run a lot of offense through him. He can do a lot of different things, and he's a high-level competitor. He plays with toughness, so I really like him. And so, getting back to the recruiting, we start in our state first, and we're evaluating as many guys as we can. As a matter of fact, when we go back out on the road, we're putting more coaches in the state. Because we need to fan out to more places. Some of these places aren't easy to get to, but we got to get to them because there's players all over the place, and you don't know exactly where they're going to be, and they pop up, and you don't want to miss guys. But when you evaluate them, we have to evaluate. You have to know what you're looking at, and that's a big part. That's a big part of it. Evaluating talent is a talent. It's a skill, and so if you see a player and you feel like he can make your team better, then you got to do what you got to do to sign him. And so, we're doing that. We're offering guys in state. We're offering guys early. We're not waiting for someone else to offer them and then say, okay, maybe we should offer them. We're getting out and trying to get in. Some of the players are interested, some are not. The ones that are not, we're trying to get them interested, and we're continuing to recruit them. And our goal is to keep the best players in the state that can help us win, keep them home.
When Leach and Hal Mummy started this offense, their receivers would run different routes every play, and they would break a route and go where the defense wasn't. Are they still freelancing to that degree, that type of thing, or is it a little more disciplined?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's freelancing or not, but they do have quite a few patterns that we need to match. And I remember, I think he was at Kentucky when I went against him when I was at LSU. It was the same type of deal. They got receivers all over the place. I remember they had a big quarterback. I think his name was Lorenzen. Yeah, he was slinging that thing all over the place, man. It's tough, You have a quarterback that can really throw it, and then you got they got about 7 or 8 receivers that can play, and they got it, and they can run it enough. Puts a lot of pressure on your defense, but it is what it is. That's the one thing about college football. You can see a different offense every week. It's not like the NFL, guys line up in I pro and I slot, and trying to get the third down, man. You can see wishbone one week, the next week is air raid, It's just different. So you have to have enough flexibility in your defensive schemes to be able to handle it and just be comprehensive enough in where your kids aren't confused. And so there's a challenge, which is great. You know, I love coaching defense, and it's a different challenge every week.
Hey, Mel, you're new in this conference, and you said you faced Mike Leach back in 2002, so a while ago. Just curious, when you got together with all the other coaches in the offseason or at Pac-12 Media Days, what's your relationship like with Mike Leach? And if you sit down and talk to him, what do you guys talk about? You know, you hear his press conferences, and he'll talk about anything, whether Bigfoot's real, pirates, you know, anything. What's your relationship like with Mike Leach, and what does the conversation turn to?
You know, I've kind of noticed that, but I'm not. How does the conversation end up going in that direction?
I think they take fan questions, so fans ask questions.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I really didn't know Coach Leach, and I really hadn't really met him until like Pac-12 Media Day. We had a deal down in we had some meetings like down in Arizona, and all the coaches were there, and so we haven't really had a conversation. It was just he introduced himself, I introduced myself, and hey, good to know you, nice to meet you, and you know, that type of deal. But he seemed like a really nice guy, and he's a very interesting guy, and I have a lot of respect for him. You know, when you do what he's doing for this long, you know, that means you know what you're doing. You know, and whatever the style of and whatever his personality is, it really doesn't matter. I mean, he gets the job done. He's very effective in what he's doing. And he believes in it, his players believe in it, and they play hard. And so that's the key to the drill. Everyone's different, you know, and I have a lot of respect for Coach Leach and his program and how he's kind of really stood the test of time.
Mel, do you have any concerns with Steven and the 4 interceptions, his confidence, or just changing plays to keep that from happening? What's going on with you and that whole process?
I don't have any concerns. I mean, it was, you know, we had a rough day, but we moved on. I mean, he looked good today. He looked good yesterday, so I don't have those concerns. You know, he's a really good player, you know, and so like everyone's got issues, you know, all over the country. You know, win or lose, you know, it's always a, you know, everybody's trying to fix problems. You know, and so we're no different. But, you know, we stay the course and make changes along the way. And there's a way to do that, you know. And so our structure and our foundation, the way we put this thing together and how we coach our players, you know, allows us to stay the course because it's not a different message every day. You know, it's not a different theme every day or a different week. It's not different. You know, it's a consistent message about, you know, how to get the job done and what we need to do to get the job done. Now we're not always able to do it and execute it, but we know what it is, and so then we can coach to that. How do we get them to that point? You know, this is what we need to do. We know we need to do it. We need to play mistake-free football. Okay, so and that's very important. We need to win the turnover margin. You know, we need to do those things. We need to be able to run the ball. We need to eliminate the explosives. They already know that, and we already talk about it and we drill it. So when it doesn't happen, then we have to say, okay, how can we fix it and get it back on track? How do we get it there? And so that's where sometimes you have to make adjustments and some changes, and maybe you have to give them the overall message maybe in a different way. You know, sometimes. And so, but getting back to what you're saying about Steven. He's a good player, you know, and we have some good players around him. We have to all execute better, you know, and, you know, he's no different than anyone else. If he's got to, you know, whatever his mistakes he's made, he's got to clean them up, and he's going to do that. And so if he wasn't deliberate about getting better, or if he didn't care, then I would be concerned. But he's far from that. So, you know, I'm excited about this. I'm ready. I have fun today in practice. It's really coaching. Coaching is a challenge, and it's very competitive, and you end up putting yourself out there. You know, you put yourself out there, you put your team out there, and your resume is on the field, right? And so that's, you know, you kind of. the higher you go, the more you're exposed. So to me, I like that challenge. And so, we stumble. Now, okay, what's next? How we gonna get this right? How we gonna fix this? And the only way you can fix it is in the meetings and in practice. That's the opportunity you have to do it. So I can't wait to get on the field and coach these guys. And I'm talking about really, really coach them. Each coach is out there coaching guys, getting after guys, teaching guys, making corrections, getting the tempo going, all those type of things. And then, you see, like today, those guys were really, I told them, I said, this was a good practice today. That's what we need to do. This is what we need to do. You want to get what you want, we got to practice like this. And then tomorrow when we come out, we got to do it even better. So now we're going to watch the film this afternoon. We're going to grade it, plus minus everything, take it to the players tomorrow, and go again. And then we're going to take the show on the road. And we'll see what happens. And that's the beauty of it. And really, no one knows what's going to happen. And so, this time next week, man, we'll be talking about it. Thank you.